Hi guys, I hope you're doing good. My name is Layla and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while, but when I started this channel, I promised myself to only put out content when I feel led to or when something is pressing on my spirit, then I will put out the content. Otherwise, I don't feel it necessary to just post things if I'm not really led by God to do so. So, as you read in the title, today we'll be talking about letting go. This is going to be a two-part just because there are other things I want to get into in the second part. So, without further ado, let's go right into the video. I feel like there's a shift happening in a lot of people's lives right now, from friends, even my mother, just people that I've been talking to. I feel like God is calling a lot of people to a season of just letting things go. And when I say letting go, I'm not just specifically talking about a friendship or a relationship. God is really calling us to let go of old habits, old patterns, old mindset, old things that no longer serve us, old things that are not going to help us or benefit us in this upcoming place that God is trying to take us to, in this upcoming blessings and things that God is trying to bring into our lives. I would always hear preachers preach about, let go and God is trying to bring you into this new season. And I always found it so cliche because I'm like, oh, they all say the same thing. But the more I grow in my faith, the more I realize the strength and the power that comes in letting go. I want to get into specifics. I want to start by talking about letting go of old habits and old patterns. You guys know I always give an example of my own personal life when I get into these videos, but one of the things that I'm learning and really fighting to let go of is just being lazy. I love to just chill. I love not doing anything that will make me sweat or make me work too hard. And so this season, God has really been calling me to start working out, start having better eating habits, start waking up earlier in the morning. And I struggle. I'm still struggling. I'm not going to come on here and pretend like, oh yeah, like I got it, I'm doing good. No, it's like, it's very difficult to break a habit. If you've been doing something for a really long time, if you've had a certain mentality for such a long time, it's so hard and it's difficult to now switch and go into a different mode of living, a way of thinking. And that's why it takes the power of God to help you through these things, because there is nothing God ever tells us to change that is for Him. It's really all for our benefit. It is for our growth and ultimately for the things that we've been asking Him or the things that we desire. Sometimes God is not withholding the things that we desire. He's just waiting for us to become the people we need to become in order to know how to nurture those things that He wants to give us, that we desire deep within us. So that's one thing, is letting go of old habits. If you grew up and let's say you've been smoking since you were 12, I've heard people who've been smoking since they were 12 or 13, your life has kind of got wrapped up in that smoking. It's become a habit. It's become part of your life. And the thought of even letting that go is almost insanity because it's become part of your identity, but God is really trying to help break those things that we think we are stuck with forever. For some people, it's drinking. For other people, it's pornography. For others, it's masturbation. It's lust. It's being in really, really unhealthy relationships. This is the time. This is the time where God is calling people to leave those things behind in order to be the best version of themselves. I often have these conversations with close friends and family members about generational curses and, hurts of the past and things that we might have experienced with our parents or our family. But with that growth comes God requiring us to change so that our children, the next generation, don't go through the things that have caused us to be who we are today, And so if you want better for yourself, if you want better for your life, if you want better for your children, it really starts with those small habits. You might look at something as small as gluttony, right? Like overeating, and think that, oh, it's not really gonna affect me as much. I know I'm being unhealthy and I should stop. But what God is looking at, He's looking 30 years down the road. He wants you to be here for your children. He wants you to see your grandchildren. Let's say you've been praying, Lord, I want to live a long life. He wants to give you that. But it all starts now with the things that you do, the small decisions that you make. And this is something I didn't understand. This is something I struggled with. It was, understanding that sometimes when God is telling us to change a habit, it's not necessarily about right now. It's about what is coming up, or the years that are coming up, and how much it's going to affect us or benefit us if we change that pattern or that habit. Another thing I want to talk about is friendships. I recently, God led me to separate with someone who I have been friends with for such a long time. I've known this person, like, it feels like forever. I feel like I grew up with this person and I have so much love and care for this person. But for the last 2 years, God was like insisting, like, it's time to separate, it's time to separate, it's time to separate, because He was working in both our lives, but in different directions. We're going in two different directions, and sometimes God wants to isolate you or the other person for their growth or for your growth. And it was probably the hardest decision, one of the hardest decisions. When they say that a breakup with a friendship is harder than a breakup with a boyfriend, or that's true. It's not a lie. I mean, it's painful because this is someone you spend so much time with. This is someone you talk to about any and everything. But sometimes God is calling you to a different place. God is calling you to a different season. And if you don't do what He is asking you to do now, you are going to be stagnant. Things are not going to move. Things are not going to progress, because one thing I love about God is that He knows who He is. He's not going to tell you something over and over and over and over again and you don't listen, and then you think He's going to answer something else. He's going to remind you, I've told you to do A, and I'm not going to give you B, or I'm not going to do B until you get rid or do what I told you to do with A. So this is a season of separation, and there's a lot of friendships that are going to have to end. There are a lot of people that God is going to separate you from, and doesn't mean that it's a permanent separation. Some people, it is a permanent separation. Others, it's right now you are not in alignment, but one day maybe you will. But you have to trust that God knows what's best for you, and He also knows what's best for the other person. But if you're holding on, what often happens is those two people start to pollute each other. You're no longer helping each other, but you become enablers. You enable each other because neither one of you is growing. And I had this conversation with that particular friend, and I said, I think we're at a place now where I'm not helping you and you're not helping me, and we are just in this cycle and this pattern. And I have to add, soul ties are not just about intimacy. It's a big part, but sometimes you can have soul ties with friends. Sometimes you can have soul ties with family members, those people that you just do not want to let go of. And there's always a fear of being the bad guy. There's always a fear of, maybe people are going to talk about me. First of all, if your friends, you guys stop being friends and they talk about you, that was never your friend. And God just gave you the best gift ever. But sometimes there's a fear of they're going to talk about me. People are going to say I'm a bad friend. If you know in your heart that you gave that friendship everything you needed to give it, or you were there for that person and you have no ill intentions in your heart towards that person, then let them go and leave the rest to God. But this is definitely a time where God is calling us to separate from people who are no longer helping us grow or are not going in the same direction as us, and that's okay. I've had people leave me in the past because I was not going in the same direction as them, and that is true because I probably would have affected those people, or I would have let them back into things that they were trying to let go of. So it's nothing personal, but you've got to think about your walk with God. You've got to think about you and becoming the best version of you, and sometimes that requires letting go of certain friendships. Okay? And then the last point I want to make is letting go of toxic people in general, right? But letting go of a toxic relationship If you are with someone who makes you question who you are, who makes you question what you have with them, if you are with someone where there is no direction, there is no clarity, there is no security, you don't feel safe, you don't feel like you're being nurtured, you don't feel like your feelings and your heart and your emotions are being protected, this is not a person for you. You know, God always has something better. God always has his plans. And sometimes, you know how they would say back in the days, like sometimes you gotta let something go. If it's yours, it will come back, and it will come back correct. And sometimes it will go and never come back, but something better will come, you know. But there are so many things. I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and we were talking about marriage and children and the things that we desire to one day have. And, you know, it really hit me that sometimes we want these things, but we are holding on to maybe that guy who texts you good morning every day just to kind of fill up your ego, or that guy that you see on the low, which you should not even be doing. Okay? As a believer, I'm not judging you. This is a no judgment zone, but it is a I'm gonna keep it real with you zone, place, okay? You shouldn't even be getting physically intimate with anybody if you consider yourself a believer. If you're not a believer, I can't judge you, because I've been a non-believer, and let's just say I was doing whatever I wanted. But if you're walking with God, you've got to stop being intimate. You've got to stop seeing that person from time to time, because each time you see them, you're just building a stronger and stronger bond with that person. And sometimes, or most times, it clouds your judgment. You can't hear God. You can't see where you're going, because the physical intimacy, the fornication, the sex, it clouds your judgment. You cannot see clearly. You cannot hear clearly. And so you can very much get in the delusion of thinking that you love a person when really you're just infatuated by the lust or how they make your body feel. And so this is definitely the time to let go of things that are no longer serving you. And love should never make you feel unworthy. You know, I was having a conversation with my mom. Yeah, I have lots of conversations. I love a good deep conversation, but I was having a conversation with my mom yesterday. And I was like, you know, Mom, I realized that no one can put you down if you haven't put yourself already down. Most of the time when people put us down, it's because we're already on the ground. When people disrespect us or treat us terribly and we allow it and we tolerate it, it's because deep inside, that's who we believe we are. We stay with people who mistreat us because deep down, they are confirming what we already believe about ourselves. But if you actually love yourself like you think you do or like you say you do, there are certain things you cannot allow just because of who you believe yourself to be or how you think of yourself. And sometimes that takes God coming, not sometimes, all the time. It takes God coming into your life and giving you that clarity of identity of who you are and value. So you realize, I don't have to live like this. I don't have to tolerate this. And I don't have to walk in this way. So this was the first part. I will be doing a part 2. So stay tuned to that. God bless.